Hello and welcome to another Tech Tuesday review. Tech Tuesday, for those that don't know, is when I take a look at something generalised in tech, not to do necessarily with RC or FPV, but just something I thought was interesting and wanted to take a look at. Now, not long ago I looked at a home projector from Yaber called the K3. Sort of projector that replaces your smart TV, although Yaber were insistent that it was like a home cinema thing. What I've got today is another projector. This is from Putrims and it's called the K12 and it's very much aimed as a sort of smart TV replacement. Spec wise it's very similar to the previous one. It has a built-in official Google TV. You log into that and then you get your official versions of the apps like all the streaming services, your Netflix, your Disney Plus, your etc. It does 1080p native resolution. It says it supports 4K and pretty much that means it's like a 4K image. We'll scale it down to 1080. It's got autofocus and auto keystoning again. Autofocus I think is pretty self-explanatory. Quite useful when you're moving it around if you're going to use this portably. And keystone is if you're at a very slight angle to your wall, what you'll get is part of the image bigger than the other, and what it can do is digitally move that round so it looks like a proper rectangle. It's 1000 lumens, which is pretty bright, and it's got a 10-watt speaker in it, much like the previous one. Again, designed a little bit more to use on the go as well, so something you could take to a place and stick outside in your garden and project onto your wall or something like that. Oh, and it's got the Google Voice Assistant built into the control, so that's very much part of the Google TV app. Why don't we get out of the box and see what we're talking about, because I haven't looked at it yet. Alright, that looks like a box of accessories, get to that in a second. Power cable, happily a UK one for me, and got the big boy itself here. Yeah, it looks quite swishy, doesn't it? Obviously got a lens cover on the moment. It looks like the power button there. On the back we've got a single HDMI in, a headphone socket input and a USB. Obviously if you've got movies on a memory stick you can stick them in there and basically a plug to go. So not as many inputs. Let's see what's in the accessories box. We get a forensic kit. That's what it looks like. Obviously for cleaning certain things. Hopefully I'll explain why we've got great big things to poke into places. We've got the remote, and this is the thing you can press a button and do the Google Assist on. It's also got shortcuts for like YouTube, Netflix, Disney, Prime Video. A brand kit where you've got your quick start guide, a warranty card, and this after sales card with a bunch of FAQs and things. And finally an HDMI cable. Alright, pretty simple. Let's go plug it in and see what happens. Well, here I am in my test room, which just happens to be my lounge. Got the projector sat here on the sofa. I've got a little leg out here just to point it up a bit. I can change the height of that if I need to. Obviously not the ideal position, but I haven't got that many walls that haven't got stuff on them. So I'm going to point it to this wall and I'll go through the setup and everything like that as we go. So I've got the remote here. There's the obvious power button there, but I'll try the remote. And that seems to be whirring into life. And we've got an image on the wall. The throw distance on this one is pretty large at not that far away. According to the manual here, at about 7.5 feet you're at 80 inches. And I think I'm around 7.5 here, so we'll check that out. Okay, that's the image on my wall. Now if I go ahead and move this around a little bit, it does the same thing as the last one I checked. It has another look and it tries to redo its focus and its keystoning, which is pretty interesting. And it feels like, I don't know if there's some sort of commonality and all these projectors have the same chip, but it seems very similar in what we've got here and how the features look. They all look exactly the same. So I guess what I need to do is go through my Wi-Fi settings and log in and stuff, which just take a little while. Okay, we've gone ahead and logged in, and again these menus look very similar, but quite a useful time to change the keystoning a little bit. Try and get this the right shape. Yeah, I actually think that's okay. I think it's the size we want to look at. So if we bring that down a little bit, we can move that over, and then we can go to about 95% quite comfortably. Alrighty, now we're getting there. Right. everything's pretty much as it is. I wonder if there's a system upgrade available now we've got the internet on. New version detected. Main updates in Chinese, so we don't know what it says, but let's go ahead and do that. Just installing the system update at the moment. It's kind of loud. If you look against where my sofa is, you can see it's at an angle to try and use more of the wall, and it does a fairly good job of the keystone. You can just see that it's a little bit closer there than it is at the top, so there's a little bit of adjustment to be done, but it's not too bad. So I've taken the option called GTV, and it asked me to press two buttons together. I really don't want English United States, English United Kingdom, there we go. So the UK and then the UK again, okay, got you. Okay, then it's the let's set up Google Home app. Well, although it says go into Google Home app and then scan that when it tells you to, that's all I get in my Google Home app at the moment. I think because this is what I used before to set up the last one, so it must be hidden somewhere else. I'm going to have to find that. Well, I deleted my device, then tried adding them, and it searched for them, and it's found two. One saying it's Chromecast Ultra, the other saying Google TV device. I'm presuming it's that one. It doesn't say in the manual. It just scanned the code before we were actually pointing it there, so maybe it hit something, and now says it's connecting. Yay, got the right one. Then we just got a bunch of licenses to accept, and it's basically going through and doing the whole Wi-Fi bit again. It takes a good sort of 5-10 minutes to go through all the Google settings, and then it will install your apps. Basically, I ticked, yeah, I've got subscriptions, things like Netflix and YouTube and Prime Video and stuff, and it's going to go and get all those apps so it can stick them on the home screen for me. Okay, so when you finish getting through the Google TV setup, you basically have all your apps here, and what I've had to do is go through each one and make sure I had to do the security thing, like you know, scan this QR code and make sure it lets you. You can just hear the speaker behind me. Let's shove something on. So here's a bit of Devil May Cry on Netflix. We'll turn the volume up. It's not a fantastic speaker, but it's not too bad. And yeah, that looks fairly bright and clear, doesn't it? Where we are at the moment, it's pretty bright outside. The sun's coming through there. We've got a lot of ambient light from the other direction, so it is pretty bright. It's not doing too bad. So then we can just go back to home and, for example, go to Disney Plus. And there's other stuff there, obviously.
You literally step into the unknown.
Alex doing some interesting climbing. We got YouTube, of course. Or going behind a tree or two and you'll get the digital break. There's one of my videos. Looks. I can see that the ambient light is having an effect on this sort of thing. It's a little bit more difficult to see, and there's not much contrast on the trees and stuff. So that is definitely a limitation. I tend to think that this is slightly less lumens than the previous one I tried. But you get the idea. One thing this had that the other one didn't seem to have easily was Plex. Plex is a sort of media player for your stuff on your own network. So all this stuff is up on my computer upstairs as my server, and we can go ahead and have a quick look at The Substance here, which wasn't a bad movie. But I could not find iPlayer on this. I went and I searched for it, and it doesn't seem to be there. If I go and say add apps, and so we should be able to search here using the button iPlayer. It just gives me well, these are all just YouTube videos, which isn't very useful. and in order to actually search on the thing, I actually have to type it in. And then it just gives me a bunch of other streaming services that aren't iPlayer. I don't know if there's a specific thing about why it's not here, why it's not on Google TV or whatever, but it's not there. It's a bit of a pain. But the rest of the stuff is there happily. And this is where this becomes a good sort of replacement for your TV if you want to, smart TV things. And it knows where I am on all different things, which is quite interesting because it's like that's on Disney Plus, that's on Netflix. And from doing that, it can say things like things that are trending on Google, and it gives different things on different services. Yes, I do like the way it can look at all the services and say, this is the stuff that's good at the moment, and you know, this is on Prime, this is on Disney, that's on Disney. Netflix doesn't get much of a look in on these, does it? Cabin in the Woods, fantastic film, that one. So yeah, that's how it can work quite well as a replacement for a smart TV. Although I do notice in this one that the lumens aren't as bright as the last one, and so a darkened, much darker room is what you're after for this sort of thing. If we go to home, obviously we can put an HDMI in, which I'll check in a second. We can do an iOS cast, play music for it, or a movie. If you just click on that, it just tells me that it's got no USB. So I think all of these, it's expecting a USB to be in there. Yep. So iOS cast, let's see if this works. Okay. It seems to be nicely connected now. Let's fly a sim. And it's very loud. You get the idea, that all works. So we can go ahead and say stop mirroring that. So let's plug something in the HDMI. Okay, we've plugged the Xbox One in, so let's go ahead and select HDMI. Turn this guy on. Xbox has come on. Oh, it's exited because there's no signal. Let's try that again. Well, I suppose in order to keep it the same, we should play some Forza Horizon 3 again. I've forgotten how slow a regular Xbox One is compared to the Series X, because it's got a mechanical hard drive instead of an SSD. It's a bit slow. Let's turn that down a bit. Yeah, this is a nice colourful image. No real areas of black or contrast to be had here, so it looks pretty good on the screen still. Which is my... oh, there it is. I was just trying to figure out where the handbrake was. I haven't played it for a while, but found it. I think this is quite a nice usage. This is cheap enough to do some good playing on a large screen or a wall or something you want to set up. Playing these nice bright games works. Something a little bit darker, like, I mean, let's just try it. Something like Gears of War, I figure maybe a little bit dimmer. Obviously, Gears came out in the Xbox 360, so its native resolution is going to be 1080p. So we're not losing any 4K stuff here. So yeah, I think you can see here where, I mean, the camera is trying to compensate for it, which is not the best thing. Let me see if I can set it how it actually looks like. Okay, I've just set the ISO so it looks the same as how it looks on the screen to my eyes. But you can see there's a real problem when something is this dark. But yeah, I'm not that comfortable playing this because it's so dark in the dark areas. There's just zero contrast between what could be vaguely dark and what it should look like. I have to say it looks quite blocky, 1080 blown up like this. It looks alright in the clear areas, but as you look around the darker bits, it's not so hot. Well, while we're here, let's check a Blu-ray out. Well, this is interesting. I've stuck my Avatar Blu-ray in, and it is complaining that it doesn't support the HDCP rights thing. It's jumping around a lot, but yeah, that's what we're seeing. Okay, stuck a different disc in, see if it's any different. What's the flickering? No. It does not support HDCP rights management. There's our problem. So I've gone ahead and tried that with several Blu-rays, including Ready Player One that I played on the last projector I tried, regular DVDs, and it's still saying because it's not HDCP compliant, it doesn't work. So if you're like me and you like to collect physical items, so you know you can play them whenever you want, this may not work so well. It kind of depends though. This is playing for an Xbox that observes HDCP rights management. Some DVD players or Blu-ray players may not, and you're alright there. I'm throwing about the term HDCP here. What is it? Well, HDCP stands for High Bandwidth Digital Content Protection. It is basically an anti-piracy measure from the source material to the destination. This is made so people just can't plug an HDMI cable in a capture device and rip a DVD that way, or a Blu-ray. Of course, Blu-ray and DVD have long since been broken, and it's very trivial to actually rip something from a drive now, but if you don't have the correct hardware, both the source, the HDMI cable and the destination, you can't simply play a Blu-ray or DVD through certain systems, because it basically talks to each other and says, hey, do you know HDCP this? And if it says no, then it can't do it. If it says yes, then they agree in encryption, and it works that way. So it seems to me that the only thing we've got left to have a look at is using a USB stick. I'll go get one and try some stuff on it. Okay, so USB drive plugged in the back, just a little stick, and if we now go to movies, it just shows our drive, and then we basically go onto a file browser. This audio not support. So, not a perfect situation there if you want to actually watch something with sound on it. I think it's going to depend about like what's the encoding is on these things. Let's go along somewhere. This is Tetris.
Maybe that is tantamount to treason.
That seems okay.
Yes. But to the men in power, it is a...
Obviously you got a speaker on this thing, but it's not that good. What's the best way of looking at this? Okay, what's the speaker sound like? Well, I'm using this because I know I use royalty-free music. So I want to see how this sounds. It's a bit tinny. It lacks any sort of depth to the bass, really. We turn it up louder. I mean, it goes louder, but that's weird. It's like it's changing the volume differently in different ways. It's okay. I don't think you'd want to listen, you know, to high quality stuff through it, or a film. I'm confused now because when I turn the volume up down, I've got this bit along the bottom and then I've got this bit up the top, which is different to the one at the bottom. So if I turn that down and I keep going all the way down on this bit, I'm fascinated to know how this works now. And then I start turning it up at the bottom, it also goes up at the top. So then we do have noise. That's confusing. Okay, another weird quirk then. So, conclusions of this guy then. It's not bad. One of the things I noticed it was weaker when compared against the Yaber that I looked at last time is the brightness. This guy has 1200 lumens, the Yaber had 1600. And in a dark room, which you'd normally associate with doing projection stuff, that would be fine. When you've got ambient light coming through, which you may have if you're replacing this with a TV, it really does make a difference. In the black areas, you've got zero contrast and they really don't go black, because of course you're looking at the absence of light there. And if the ambient light is high, then your blacks are just going to be whatever, more white than black. And that is really bad when you've got a range of like sort of darkness varying, because you just won't see it. On the plus side, this is about half the price of the Yaber. So from that point of view, it's quite nice. It's pretty portable. You can take it to places, go around friends, you know, project onto a wall, have a games night, that sort of thing, and it will be alright. The speaker in it, I don't think you'd be able to live with. If you were using this as like a TV replacement and you wanted to get decent audio, you would have to have a soundbar or something connected to this to have something better, because it's a little bit weak. There's no bass quality to it. It's very tinny. Big weakness to me, its inability to let DVDs and Blu-rays play from my Xbox, because it's saying it's not HDCP compliant. Now that well could have been like maybe the cable wasn't right, but I used the cable with it, so I would expect them to ship the right thing. Of course, most people don't use physical discs now. They have a digital version in their library, or they just do what's on the streaming services. So that fact will either destroy this, or you won't worry about it because you're not using physical discs. But the rest of the features are very good. They look very, very similar. Almost like there's some set OS for projectors now, and a set chipset which do exactly the same thing. The autofocus and keystoning was very nice, and you can just change it very slightly with little adjustments there. The whole idea of the Google TV is very nice, although where's BBC iPlayer? That's what I want to know. Yeah, and it worked okay. As I said, it's a dark room thing to really get the best out of this, but it is half the price of the Yaber, so not too bad in that sense. Anyway, if you want to know more about this, there'll of course be a link down below which you can check it out in more detail. Hope that's been helpful, and I'll catch you next one. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.